Welcome along this Friday evening to the State of Scottish Football. I'm your host this evening, Colin Watt, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Gray. Jake, you missed last week for a trip down to Firhill. Was it Firhill for Frills?
No, not quite. It was a 1-0 to Partick Thistle, unfortunately. No thrills. It was a close game, but enjoyable enough.
Well, we have 6 enjoyable games, hopefully, to go through this evening on the State of Scottish Football. We're live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, on all platforms possible. If you are watching us, let us know what your predictions are for this weekend's cinch Premiership games. And let us know where you're tuning in from. Make us jealous. We've always got Jerry over there in Miami who's letting us know it's always really warm, whereas it's looks as if it's about to snow here. What about over on the East Coast? Is it looking a bit rough?
Aye, it's absolutely freezing as well. I got in not long ago from work and I'm glad I'm home, to be fair. It's absolutely Baltic.
Well, get the heating on, get the kettle boiled, and we'll take you through what should be a brilliant weekend of Scottish football. Let's start, though, with the main game of the weekend. Well, I say it's the main game. It's the game Sky have chosen to cover. It is the game from Tannadice, and as the headline suggests, Dundee United versus Celtic does get the go-ahead. However, Jake, Celtic are going to have to do it without the backing of a couple of thousand Celtic fans. Those located in the Jerry Kerr stand will not be able to attend. It's a difficult situation for Dundee United, isn't it? Because you've got to get a stadium safety certificate for the game to go ahead, and it's kind of out with their hands.
Yeah, ultimately I think they're doing the right thing. As unfortunate as it is for the Celtic fans that are missing out. I think Dundee United didn't have any other choice. Supporters' safety is the utmost importance at every football game. So, as unfortunate as it is for the Celtic fans that are missing out, I'm sure the ones that are in the shed will give the team a big enough backing.
Dundee United's always been one of those grounds that I've enjoyed visiting over the years because it's got a good proximity to the pitch, so the atmosphere builds around the stadium.
Aye.
As an away fan, you always tend to get a really good allocation from Dundee United. I think even with the reduction of not having the Jerry Kerr stand on Sunday, Celtic's still taking the best part of 3,500 fans through there. So you do get a really good allocation going. But as you said, safety has to come first at the end of the day. If it's not fit for purpose at the minute, then there's nothing much they can do. I'm sure it will still be a great atmosphere generated by both sets of supporters. If you are sticking this one on your coupon this weekend, here are the odds, latest as of about half an hour ago. Dundee United are 17-2 outsiders, the draw is 4-1, and Celtic are 1-3. Now, I think that price, Jake's coming from the fact that Dundee United have only won 1 out of the last 5 games, that victory coming against Aberdeen. Sorry for our Aberdeen contributors that participate. And if you've got OCD, then Dundee United have almost a perfect record. Scored 15, conceded 15. We're 17 weeks into the season now, Jake. It's shown they're a difficult team to break down, but they're struggling to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, they're certainly difficult to break down, but, I don't think anybody, to be fair, when they were going through that really good run, I don't really think anybody thought they were going to keep it up throughout the whole season. So I guess it is to be expected that they were going to go on a bit of a slog, and as you said, 1 in 5 games, wasn't it? But so it's not really the ideal time for Tam Courts and United to be facing Celtic, who are playing well at the minute.
Yeah, well, in saying that, Celtic will have their injury concerns ahead of the game on Sunday, and we'll cover that in a second. As I said, last time out, Dundee United, they lost 1-0 to that Tony Watt wonder goal at Fir Park. Did you see the pitch that day? That was one of them ones that you used to play on in the old school, but that was dreadful.
Yeah, but as we've been saying, some of the pitches in Scotland haven't been great this season, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, that definitely didn't help United that day. But yeah, I think they'll try their best against Celtic to get back to winning ways, but it's going to be a really tough ask.
We've got Cal in the comment section here saying the banned steps are about to send us into lockdown and ruin it for football fans. What he's referring to, I don't know if you've seen it, Jake, but they're saying that the new COVID variant that's been found in Scotland, it's been traced back to a steps gig at the Hydro in Glasgow. So, last I heard, they weren't sure how many cases of it was 5, 6, 7, 8 at one point.
Yeah, the last I heard it was 9. So
That one went right over your head, Jake. You weren't a Steps fan growing up.
I get you now.
Look, as I said, Celtic come into this game with some injury concerns of their own. It sounds from Ange Postecoglou's pre-match press conference that Anthony Ralston, Stephen Welsh and Jota will miss the game on Sunday. I mean, if you look at it in terms of the way that Celtic have played this season, the biggest losses out of those two will be Jota and Anthony Ralston.
Absolutely, and I'm going to say especially Jota because he's been absolutely outstanding, as has Ralston, but going forward, Celtic have been blistering at times with Jota on the wing. And Ralston is as well, to be fair, going forward, he's been really impressive. He's been solid at the back. So it's going to be a really big miss, especially the two of them. For Ange, both those players have been instrumental in the way Celtic play since he's came in. So, yeah, massive loss. And Ange will be hoping that they're not out for longer than they need to be for this weekend and whatever else.
All those injuries coming from Celtic's 1-0 victory over Hearts last night. Another game that was live on Sky. Did you manage to catch much of it, Jake?
I did. I seen it and I thought Celtic played really well. There was a period towards the end of the game where Hearts, the stat came up on the screen, and I think Hearts had something like 84% of possession over the last 10-15 minutes, but Celtic were able to withstand the pressure. Barry Mackay came close at one point. But yeah, I think it was a fairly professional performance from Celtic, limited Hearts to few chances, especially in the first half, and I think they were deserved of the 1-0 win.
It's interesting that's not the view from a lot of people in the media, especially those of a certain orient. We'll not touch on Chris Boyd for too long, but to me, I mean, Jake, you're a neutral here, so you can offer the not the green tinted glasses or the red or the blue tinted glasses. Chris Boyd, surely he's starting to embarrass himself out there, and he's embarrassing Scottish football.
I mean, yeah, he is, but fair enough. I agree. I think he was offside. Chris Boyd made his point, but he made it how many times on the show? He kept bringing it back up, and he just didn't have to do that. He kept bringing it up, and even you could see Berra and Stelian Petrov were looking at him as if to say, come on, we've spoke about this. There's only so many times we can go over it, but yeah, it was a bit of an embarrassment last night.
Do you remember last season he brought in the SPFL rulebook to a game?
Did he?
He pulled the rulebook out of his pocket for a game last season. I mean, he is the pantomime villain, but he's thick. He's literally thick. He's one of these guys that if he offered some sort of decent insight and he was biased, you could sort of let him away with it. But you look at the stature of pundits down south, guys like Carragher, Neville, the depth that they go into, Roy Keane, and then you come up to Scotland and it's big Chris Boyd, or Boydie as he called himself last night. It just shows you how much Sky are really paying attention to Scottish football. I
know, and I just wish they would pay more attention to Scottish football. You've seen even this week, I don't know if you've seen any of the games down in England on Amazon, you've got Ali McCoist and everything commenting, and then, as you say, come up here and we've got Chris Boyd in the studio. It's a bit disappointing at times.
Well, I mean, somehow he still manages to get himself on Soccer Saturday and everything else with Sky Sports. I think he is an embarrassment to Scottish football, let's be perfectly honest. I think even Rangers fans can admit to that at times as well. Someone who did come back into the game or into the fold for Celtic last night was Carl Starfelt, and he picked up the Man of the Match award. With that injury to Stephen Welsh, it looks as if he'll be partnered by Cameron Carter-Vickers at the weekend. What did you make of Starfelt's performance, in particular that last-ditch tackle on Mackay with a couple of minutes to go, which basically I think got Celtic the victory?
Yeah, it definitely did. I thought he was outstanding. He deserved his Man of the Match award. And was that his first game back, or he'd been back?
First game back, yeah.
Back in. So he was outstanding, especially for it being his first game back. And I think it's really positive for Ange now. And Welsh, when he does get fit again, I think he might struggle to get back into the team if Carter-Vickers and Starfelt put together a good partnership. I think Starfelt's definitely the main centre half.
He's one of those ones who, at first, there was a lot of doubt over him. He made quite a few mistakes, but Ange continued to kind of persevere with him, and it looks as if he's paying his rewards for that. I've got to say, he was probably the man of the match last night. He was, as you said, very solid at the back. And then you look at it, And there's instance once again with Kyogo Furuhashi. What was your take on some of those? I mean, the one with John Souttar's probably the main one.
So, I mean, I've seen a lot of different opinions on social media and about him, Kyogo Furuhashi going down too easily and everything. But I think as you've mentioned, Colin, he is targeted quite a lot in games. So there's so many instances that we could speak about from last night, even the Sutter one especially. But yeah, I don't think some of the opinions on Kyogo have been fair since last night over social media. I think maybe he does go down a bit easy at times and play at the bit, but I think a lot of football players do, and that's just the game. That's the way it is now, I'm afraid.
I've got to admit, as a fan, it was frustrating to see him on the deck as often as what he was last night.
Mm-hmm.
But that one by Sutter in particular, when you watch the full kind of clip on that, Sutter sort of focuses on him. The ball's out of play and turns to him, and then there's the kind of coming together. So, yeah, I mean, it's people are going to see whatever side they want to see from this debate. But you look at this, speaking about the introduction of VAR, if you start doing stuff off the ball, VAR is going to pick up on stuff like that, and you're not going to get away with it.
Exactly, and for one, I don't want VAR in Scotland because I love the game the way it is at the minute. We wouldn't be having these conversations. But yeah, they wouldn't get away with it, and you don't get away with it down south in the leagues that they do have VAR. So in that respect, VAR would be good because these things wouldn't happen. But in another respect, I think having no VAR keeps our game a wee bit more entertaining.
And there'll be plenty to debate even if VAR's brought in, because you'll see that they'll say the line's not perpendicular and all this nonsense. Look, we've got a game to look forward to on Sunday. It is the 12 o'clock kickoff on Sky Sports. As we said, it looks as if Cameron Carter-Vickers will return for Celtic. Greg Taylor is another couple of days away from returning. So the question will be asked, who will be at left back? And to me, it's between Adam Montgomery, who came on and put on a very good shift last night, or the forgotten man, Bolingoli. Do you think we could see Bolly returning to the Celtic lineup for what would be the third random time this season?
Well, we've seen it happen before. As you say, it has been random this season, but no, I think it'll be Montgomery. He came on, he done well last night. He's done well a few times this season under Ange Postecoglou. So I think it'll be him. But you never know. As random as Montgomery has been, he's popped up throughout the season. So we might see him, but I'm expecting to see Montgomery.
Well, I guess as long as there's no Jet2 flights to Spain this weekend, we might see the return of Bolingoli. 12 o'clock kickoff for this one on Sunday. As I said, the odds 17-2 for Dundee United, 1-3 for Celtic. It's time for us to make our predictions. Given the fact that Dundee United are on quite a bit of a poor run, coming up against Celtic, they'll definitely raise their game, but the struggle that they are having is scoring. They're not really scoring enough goals. Potential for them to maybe get one here with an unsettled back four for Celtic, but I think Celtic should just have enough on the day. I'm going to go with Celtic to win 2-1.
Yeah, I don't think Dundee United will score, unfortunately, for any Dundee United fans out there, so I think it'll be 3-0 to Celtic.
3-0. Do you know, I don't know how much creativity is lost with Jota not being on the field. It'll be interesting to see what way Ange lines up the Celtic team, who will replace him on that left-hand side. Will he go with Forrest? Will he go with someone else? Abada will probably come back into the fold, but the return of Tom Rogic for me is the big one, and he could be the kind of match winner on Sunday. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section. How do you see this one going at Tannadice on Sunday? You can get your predictions in whilst we discuss the other game involving the Glasgow and Dundee teams. It is Rangers versus Dundee at Ibrox. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday afternoon. The odds, if you're putting this one on the coupon, Rangers are 1-6, the draw is 6-1, and Dundee are 18-1. Massive odds for Dundee. As we say in the tagline here, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst aims for his 4th win from 4. Have you been impressed with what Van Bronckhorst has done since he's took over at Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was quite a hard one to come into, especially given everyone was so raging about Stevie G leaving. But yeah, you got a decent reception, Van Bronckhorst, and I have been impressed. I think they will get the 4th win. I think he's been pretty solid. He hasn't changed too much about their play, but he's made little tweaks, and I think they've been impressive since he's came in.
I mean, you look at it, you always get that sort of, or you hope to get that new manager bounce when someone comes over, but it's very different circumstances in this instance. Usually in that case, it's like a team that's been on a bad run of form, they maybe lost 3 or 4 in the bounce, the new manager comes in, they pick up a 3 points unexpectedly and go on a run. Van Bronckhorst has came into a team that were sitting top of the table. They'd just been knocked out of the League Cup, but they were on a decent run, looking to qualify for the last 32 of the Europa League. So it's different circumstances to when a manager usually comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, you look at the film when my team, Yogi Hughes, came in, there's been a bounce down there. But yeah, it's definitely different for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. But bearing in mind, Rangers have been picking up points throughout the whole of the season, even when they haven't been playing particularly well. And I know I said I've been impressed with them, but there has been spells in probably each of his 3 games so far that they haven't been at the top of their game. They've still got the likes of Morelos missing sitters, against Hibs. That header was an absolute sitter. So I'm sure Van Bronckhorst will know that he's got a lot to work on still.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that game against Hibs on Wednesday night, settled with a Kemar Roof penalty. We're going to get on to the person that gave away the penalty later on, in Ryan Poultice, but in terms of Rangers' performance, it was one of those dig deep, win gritty performances, and as you said, Morelos missing that chance. It could have come back to haunt them if they didn't get their penalty. You've just got to find a way to keep winning. The amount of games that's coming up in December, teams are playing 10, 11, 12 games in December, and you're not going to win them all 5-6-0. You are going to have these games that's going to be backs to the wall and just try and grind out the 3 points.
Exactly. And listen, when you go to Easter Road and you grind out a 1-0 win like that, I think that might be more pleasing for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst than a 4-0 win at times. It just shows that they're capable of going to places like that and still winning, even when they're not playing well, or even when Hibs are putting up, a really physical performance against them, which they did. And yeah, undoubtedly it was tough for them, but they done well. They dug deep, as you said, and they got the 3 points. And I'm sure, with the amount of games that they're playing over the next 4 weeks, they'll need to do it a lot, and they'll need to use their squad. They have got a fairly decent sized squad, so I'm sure it'll come to good news.
As we said, Dundee 18-1. Now, if you look at the form table, Dundee are one of the informed teams in the league at the minute. 3 wins in 4 games, and they've got Danny Mullen banging the goals in. 3-3 for the Scotsman. He's not someone who's known as a prolific goal scorer, Jake, but he is leading the line very well for Dundee at the minute. Yeah,
and you look at he's leaving Lee Griffiths on the bench at the minute, and Cummings, I'm not sure on his fitness, but he's not been playing as well. But Mullen's been outstanding over the last few weeks, and Dundee have turned a corner, it seems. James McLeod will be delighted with that, because I was fearing the worst for them, to be fair. So the run they've been on, they'll be really appreciative of that. I think they're going to struggle to get a result this weekend against Rangers, but you never know. Danny Mullen, as we said, has been firing on all cylinders, so he might get the goal. They might nick a 1-0.
The 4th game out of that 4-game period that we're looking at here was the 4-2 loss at Dens Park to Celtic, when Jota and Kyogo basically ran the show. And again, the positives that Dundee could take away from that game is they scored 2 goals. They managed to get themselves sort of in with a say in the game. This is going to be the exact same on Saturday. They're going to have to score if they want anything out of this game. I don't think you can really turn up to Ibrox and expect to come away with a 0-0, especially with the kind of firepower that Rangers have got up front at the minute. But at the back, this is where Rangers have kind of been, I'd say, more fragile than what they were last season. Everyone was looking at the likes of Conor Golson, Hollander as the sort of best 2 centre-halves in the league last year. Now, I wonder if there's a kind of edge to Conor Golson right now because of the contract talks. Now, there was word came out this week that it looks as if Conor Golson won't sign a new deal at Ibrox. However, Rangers media partners, Heart and Hand podcast, have come out today and said that they spoke to someone from within the club, and they basically, not to believe it, there's still talks ongoing. How do you see this one going, Jake? Is Conor Golson going to leave Rangers this season?
I think he will, to be honest. I think he'll go back down south. I think he's made it quite clear that that's where he wants to go. He was there before with Brighton, obviously, and he had a good season last season. He hasn't been at the races this season, to be honest. I don't think. Obviously, it's going to be a big loss for Rangers if he goes, but as I said, he hasn't been that great. But to be fair, yeah, I think he will go back down south. He might sign a pre-contract in January, which obviously wouldn't go down well, and he maybe wouldn't play as much for the rest of the season if he did do that. But yeah, I can't see him staying at Rangers, to be honest. Can't see him signing a new deal.
What's your thoughts on the whole pre-contract situation? If someone at Dunfermline signed a pre-contract to go and play for, say, Morton next season, would you want them to move in January, or would you expect them that they'd have the professionalism to see out the season?
No, I would want them to. I would just say, if you don't want to be at the club, just go now. To be fair, I don't really. No, it's not for me. Obviously, you don't really see much of it at Championship level, but yeah, if I was a Rangers fan and Conor Golson signed a pre-contract with a team down south, I wouldn't want him to feature, to be honest.
I feel as if you don't see it that often nowadays either. The last one I can remember in Scotland was probably Jordan Jones, when Jordan Jones went to make the move to Rangers. Yeah. I don't think there's been many since, but then he stayed, and a couple of days later he scored the winning goal against Rangers. So there is obviously players that can put that to the back of their minds. But as you said, when you know that your move is away from the club that you're at the minute, it must be difficult to see that season out.
Especially in situations like that where the team's in the same league. I don't understand how clubs are happy to keep players for the remainder of the season after they've signed for someone else in the same league. But yeah, I don't think he would play for Rangers, to be honest. I don't think the fans would allow it if he'd signed a pre-contract elsewhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. But it looks as if they may have already found a replacement in Calvin Bassey. Bassey's been deputising at centre half with the injury to Philip Hollander. And to be perfectly honest, he's been having some really good games. Not only Hollander, but Balogun's been out injured as well. He's filming a bit of a partnership alongside Conor Golson, isn't he?
Yeah, from what I've seen of him, he's been really good. When I ventured through to Ibrox earlier in the season, I think he got man of the match against Dunfermline, and he beat us 6-1. So yeah, I think he's solid. I think he's is he a good enough replacement for Conor Golson? We don't know. If he keeps getting a run in the team, he might be. He maybe has the potential to go on and replace him and do what he's done.
They've got that versatility of him playing at left back as well, but for the kind of stature and the build that he's got, he does naturally suit that centre half position. It's time to get to the predictions. The last game between these two finished 1-0 to Rangers, with Joe Aribo scoring the winner at Dens Park. I think it'll be much more of a comfortable game for Rangers at Ibrox, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm going to go with Rangers to win 4-0.
Took the words out of my mouth. 4-0 is what I was going to say. It's what I've got written down. I hate copying, but 4-0. I just think it's going to be too comfortable. Although Dundee have turned a bit of a corner, I can't see them going to Ibrox and getting anything.
Joe Mullen coming in correcting me here, saying he thinks it was Neil McCann that took the rule book into the studio. I mean, Neil McCann, Chris Boyd, both of them are just as much of an embarrassment to Scottish football as the other, but thanks for clarifying that one, Joe. So yeah, I am telling the teacher you've been copying my homework, as we both go for 4-0 victories at Ibrox. Another game that's taking place on Saturday at 3 o'clock is up in the northeast. It is Aberdeen versus Saint Marin. Aberdeen picking up a much-needed 2-0 victory over Livingston through the week. Goals coming from Ryan Hedges and David Bates. That takes a little bit of pressure off of Stephen Glass at the minute, Jake, but you look at it, they've got this game against Saint Marin on Saturday, and then 2 away trips, one to St Johnston, and then a big one against Hibs. Anything dropped on Saturday would be a disaster, surely.
It would be, because it's a really busy period for them, and I'm not sure how Aberdeen are set out to deal with that with the squad they've got at the minute. It was a good win for them last time out, although Livingston are on a bit of an abysmal run. It does take a bit of pressure off them, but St Mirren are no mugs, and it'll be a tough game for them this weekend as well.
Ryan Hedges, he was the star man for Aberdeen against Livingston the other night. He is someone who, we're speaking about pre-contracts there, could sign a pre-contract at another team in January. If you were Stephen Glass and it just didn't look as if he was going to be signing that new deal next summer, would you be tempted to cash in January on him?
I think you would be tempted. And I know I just said you wouldn't want someone playing for your club if they'd signed a pre-contract, but if he's going down south to further his career and he still wants to be at Aberdeen for the rest of the season despite signing for another club, I think he's too big a player for them to really care about having signed for someone else. And if you're getting money for him, I think you have to take it in Aberdeen shoes. At the same time, are they in a position to not, pay what he wants and try and keep him at Aberdeen when he's arguably their best player and they're not in the best of situations?
That is a difficult one, as you say. I think he is their best player this season, certainly. Obviously missed a lot of last season through injury, but you could tell how much they missed him. And I think for me, he's the only midfield option that kind of gives a threat to any team that comes up against Aberdeen, because he's direct, he runs at you, and he can score a goal just like he did on Wednesday night. You look at it, Ferguson doesn't do enough for me. Doesn't do anywhere near enough for me for the kind of hype that he gets around him. And then Scott Brown, you know what you're going to get out of a Scott Brown performance. So there is very few attacking options coming from that midfield. And if you take Ryan Hedges out of it, I don't really know where any sort of creativity comes from.
Yeah, and that's the point I was making. I think they would have to keep a hold of him at least until the end of the season, because if they don't, I don't know where that spark's going to come from. Like you say, I don't think Ferguson's been as good this season as he was last season. I think he is a good player. But as you say, no, I don't think Stephen Glass has been getting enough out of him this season. I think he could. I think he could do much better, but I just haven't seen it so far.
If you are sticking this one on the coupon, some interesting odds this weekend. Aberdeen are 19 to 20, the draw is 23 to 10, and Saint Marin, who we're going to talk about now, are 10 to 3. Now, Saint Marin are on a horrendous run of form themselves. They haven't won a game in the league since October 16th. It's coming up for nearly 2 months since their last league win. 7 without a win. They had a 0-0 draw against Ross County through the week. And I think the concerning thing for Jim Goodwin was that was 11 shots on target, 27 shots in all, and they still just can't find a way to score.
Yeah, and it's worrying times for Jim Goodwin. It's an abysmal run of form. And, Aberdeen having just beat Livingston. And, I think this one's got the makings of another classic. Like the last one, I think, was a high-scoring game. But St Mirren will be really worried about facing Aberdeen. They really need to try and get the monkey off their back and get a winning run. Because
it is probably a kind of comfort to Jim Goodwin that the team are creating chances. It's just they're not sticking them away. I mean, you'd be more frustrated if you're wondering where the chances are going to come from, just like I was suggesting there with Aberdeen if you take Ryan Hedges out of that team. But 27 shots, that's up there with a Celtic or a Rangers performance. Do you know what I mean? It's good for St Mirren, but not having won since October 16th, it's a lot to try and kind of go over, especially what will be, I'm sure, a very well attended Pittodrie on Saturday.
Yeah, and as we all know, having not winning in a month and a half, they'll be low on confidence, and it's tough when you go on a losing run like that for them to get back 10 points. So, as you say, it will be a comfort for Jim Goodwin that they're creating chances. They've got good players in the team, but they need to start hitting the back of the net soon.
Yeah, it's time for guys like Eamon Brophy to step up to the mark for St Mirren. They can't keep going on. They had the really good form at the start of the season. That's why they find themselves. I think they're sitting 8th at the minute, and St Aberdeen are 7th. So, I mean, the chance to overtake Aberdeen with a victory here. But for Stephen Glass, the pressure is definitely on. 8 games already lost this season. You can't really keep going losing these games because, as I said, St Johnston and Hibs away, I wouldn't fancy them to pick up the 3 points against either of them.
No, to be fair, and at the start of the season, we probably wouldn't be looking at Aberdeen and saying they might need to start looking over their shoulder. But if they don't pick up points this week, that's what they'll be doing. St Johnstone and Hibs will both be really tough games for them, although St Johnstone are not the greatest at the minute. yeah, I think it's going to be really tough for Aberdeen to pick up a decent amount of points this week. So St Mirren, if they fail to beat St Mirren, I think that's a bit of a problem.
Obviously, the third game in a week for both teams, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out of that. St Mirren obviously still without their key player McGrath. Aberdeen with their own injury concerns, but I'm going to put it out there, and I hope the teachers watching, just in case you're copying my homework again. I don't think there's much between the two teams, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think St Mirren are very solid at the back. I think Aberdeen struggle to create a lot of chances despite the amount of possession that they generate. And for that reason, I'm going to go with a one each draw.
You're joking. I've got it in one.
No, we need the adjudicator in here.
We can't. No, I'll change my opinion.
Two each.
I'll say St Mirren 1-0. Go for it.
All the Aberdeen fans on this show are they're hating you right now. Let us know what your predictions are. Conrad's come in so far and said he predicts 2-1 Celtic and 1 each Rangers. I think I can work out which team Conrad supports. Do you really think St Mirren could nick it? Is it just because you're copying my homework?
But to be fair, I have got 1-1 written down there. But I think if anyone... I just fancy St Mirren. I don't know why, to be honest. But I just think I've got a feeling they might nick it 1-0.
I think it's that black...
1 each.
It's that black and white connection. I can see it. We are halfway through the fixture list so far for the weekend. There is another couple of Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs to look forward to. One of them being at Easter Road, where Jack Ross's Hibs come up against a Motherwell side who, as we mentioned earlier, picked up that good win over Dundee United earlier in the week. The thing with Hibs at the minute, Jake, is when you look at it, they are on paper a fairly decent side, but they're not picking up the results that they really should. They've lost 4 out of the last 5 in the league. And I think, was it almost, I mean, the victory that they did pick up was against a 10-man St Johnston. They were 1-0 down in that. They could be really sitting here with 6 or 7 defeated in a row. That loss to Rangers midweek, did they deserve to lose it? Probably on the balance of play, there wasn't a lot in it, but, and I said I would speak about it, Ryan Porteous, he always seems to be the man who is making the headlines when these two teams meet. If he's not getting sent off, he's giving away a penalty, or he's coming out with a fantastic after-match statement. Ryan Porteous, for me, he's got all this hype, but I just don't know actually how good he really is.
Yeah, I'm the same, and I must admit, though, I thought he had a solid game against Rangers the other night. I thought he was really, really good. But for me, at times, he's a bit of a hothead, especially against Rangers. He's a bit erratic at times. I don't really know how much of a ball-playing centre-half he is. I know he's been labelled that in the past. But for me, I think you could see him moving on to, sorry, Hibs fans, maybe bigger and better things in the future. But as I said, I just think he's that wee bit too erratic for me.
He's 22 years old now. His contract is running until 2023. As you said, he has got this thing when he comes up against Rangers. It goes right back to, 2-3 seasons ago when there was the incident with Alfredo Morelos, and it's just kind of stemmed from that. Every time Rangers play Hibs, something involving Ryan Porteous happens. If he's not sent off, he's given away a penalty like he did on Wednesday night, or I think he scored against them as well. 109 games for Hibs. What do you value Ryan Porteous at if someone was to come in January? Because this is where I struggle. I think the guy's got a lot of potential, but I still think there's a lot that he needs to learn from his game. And if he is looking at moving on, if he doesn't sign a new deal, which has been spoke about now for the last 6 weeks that he has been potentially talking about doing so, I still think there's a lot of development he needs to do. And for me, he should be doing it at Hibs.
Yeah, we want all the best players in Scotland to stay in Scotland, if you can call him that. But he does have potential. He's 22 years old, as you say, and he makes the headlines often. He puts in a lot of good performances. He is a bit raw still, and maybe that's why he's erratic in my eyes, or he's a bit of a hothead. But well know that players get better with experience, or the majority do anyway. And I think, to be fair, if you're an English Championship club, or probably Championship club, you're looking and you're thinking it could be a potential bargain to sign a player like Ryan Porteous, because it could go really well. But on the other hand, it might not go as well because of that, the attitude he sometimes has that he's shown against Rangers.
You compare him to Scott McKenna, when Scott McKenna made the move from Aberdeen. Now, both were sort of a similar age. McKenna when he moved, and Porteous now. Who do you think is the better defender out of the two of them?
I think McKenna is more solid, and he was more solid at the time he signed for Forest. So I would personally say him. I think he's a better defender. Porteous is more entertaining, but to be fair, obviously I haven't seen a lot of McKenna other than when he's played for Scotland over the last few months. But when he was in Scotland, I would be leaning towards saying McKenna.
So McKenna left for what, £3.5 million, was it, to Forest?
I think it was around 3 million anyway. Yeah.
3 million, £3.5 million.
Yeah.
I think that kind of skews what my valuation would be for Porteous then. I would say, even though that was 18 months ago, maybe a bit longer, I still think if a bid was to come in January for Porteous, it would be somewhere between £3.5 million.
Well, I guess, was McKenna 22 or was he a little bit older? I can't remember when he went to Forest, but I was going to say in between 2.5 and 3 million maybe, because you look at when Hibs were getting offers for Kevin Nisbet, I think the biggest offer they got was around 3 million, and he at that time was arguably more important to Hibs than Porteous is now, maybe because he was scoring goals. So I'm not sure if they will get 3.5 million. I think I'd be looking between 2.5, 3 million maximum, to be honest. But
so McKenna was 23 and Porteous is 22, about to turn 23, so very similar in age.
I see. So if you would take him at Celtic, how much would you be happy to pay for him?
First of all, I wouldn't take him just now. I wouldn't. I think there is a development that needs to come from him. Look, some of the players, like Sir McKenna, I think he's become a better player since he left Aberdeen, because he's playing with better players and he's playing against better players. Porteous might do the same if he was to make the move to Celtic. He'd obviously be training alongside arguably some better players. He'd be playing in Europe. But I just think whilst there's that development aspect still there, as a centre-half, it's very difficult to take a risk on someone like that. And I'm not trying to undervalue him because we want to talk up the Scottish game, but he's a guy with 18 months left on his contract, and that often dictates how much you're going to get from him. I'm not sure what Hibs' record transfer would be. I take it it's still Scott Brown, £4 million, roughly, something along them lines. If they could get anything close to the record transfer fee for Ryan Porteous, then I'm sure that'd be a great investment for Hibs.
Yeah, and I think you only need to look back to the start of the season. Jason Kerr, I'm not sure. I know he's older than Ryan Porteous. I'm not sure by how much, but he didn't go for very much down south. I don't think, anyway. And he had a great season last season for St Johnston. Arguably more solid than Porteous last season. So I think if Hibs can get 3 million, they should definitely take it.
Well, we'll see what happens come January. The transfer window isn't too far away from opening. Before that, Hibs do have the League Cup final against Celtic to look forward to, and the good news for Hibs fans is they got an additional 2,000 tickets for the game, so good luck to any of the Highbees that got a ticket. They are coming up against Motherwell on Saturday. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. The odds, if you're putting this one on the coupon, 3-4 for Hibs, 14-5 is the draw, and Motherwell are 7-2. Motherwell, as we spoke about, that 1-0 victory over Dundee United. They've got 3 wins and 4. Each of those wins coming with a clean sheet. And I would say that if they're going to look to get the 3 points at Easter Road on Saturday, Jake, they're probably going to need to do the same and keep another clean sheet.
Yeah, well, they'll certainly be hoping for that. But on the other hand, if they don't keep a clean sheet, they've got Tony Watt firing on all cylinders. So maybe if they concede 1, Tony will score 2.
It was interesting. I was looking up Tony Watt's stats, and I mean, the two things that kind of jump out to me was this is his 12th club in his career. He's only 27 years old. He turns 28 just before Christmas or around Christmas time. He's already had 12 clubs in his career, but that goal on Tuesday night was his 9th goal of the season, and that's his second highest goal return throughout his career. So he is someone who's known as a sort of nomadic striker, being all over the place. He's not necessarily known for his goal-scoring prowess, but if he goes on and gets 15, 20 goals for Motherwell this season, that'd be a fantastic return.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he is. Well, he is already on Steve Clarke's radar. I think he's came out and said that. But if he goes on and gets 15 to 20 goals, then you would think that he'll be in the squads going forward, because that'd be an absolutely fantastic return for Tony Watt at Motherwell.
Well, his highest goal-scoring return season is 10 goals when he was on loan at Leuven in Belgium, when he was a Celtic player. Now kind of making his way back round. He wasn't great at Hearts. He's found his sort of home at Fir Park. You can see it. He's delighted to be playing there. I don't think he's too far away from his family there as well, having grown up around the Airdrie area. So I'm sure it just kind of is a perfect move for him. 7-2 for Motherwell, considering they've won 3 out of the last 4 and Hibs are not on a great run. I don't know if the bookies have got this one right.
Yeah, I mean, I would be looking at taking Motherwell at them odds, to be fair. Hibs, I thought they were okay the other day, but I think the odds are quite big.
Motherwell's they're one of those teams that can just kind of pull a result out of nowhere. That sometimes the Dundee result a couple of weeks ago when they lost 3-0, that came out of nowhere. But then they go and beat a Tam Coates Dundee United team, and that came out of nowhere as well. They're a very unpredictable side this season, Motherwell. It must be very frustrating as a fan and as someone who tries to put them on their coupon every week. Let's go to predictions, though. I think this one's going to be very tight. I don't see either team having enough over the 90 minutes to kind of get the victory or to be the dominant team. I'm just going to go with a one each. I'm just going to play it safe. I'll sit on the fence and take the splinters.
Well, I'm taking those odds now. I've got written down here 2-1 Motherwell. Fancy them to get the win.
2-1 Motherwell. Be interesting to see how this one goes. Let us know in the comment section how you think that one will go. There's 2 games left in the Cinch Premiership to cover. First one of those involves David Martindale's Livingston against Robbie Nielsen's Hearts. Now, we spoke about odds being enticing for you. Again, as I say, gamble responsibly, please. But the odds for this Sunday 3 o'clock kickoff at the Spaghetti Ad, 13-5 for Livingston, 13-5 for the draw, and Hearts are evens. Now, for me, that's big money. I know, obviously, they lost 1-0 to Celtic last night, and before we get in and kind of discuss that, let's speak about Robbie Nielsen's post-match comments. I mean, if you're a Hearts fan, I guess it's good to see him coming out and defending his players. But for me, it was a bit of sour grapes with that last night. Coming out and basically saying the referee won the game for for Celtic, sorry. I don't think Hearts done a lot themselves to kind of suggest that they could have walked away from Celtic Park with 3 points. I've seen a very funny tweet before I get your points on this, and there's always been a thing with Celtic fans that they believe that the Paradise windfall is always won by a paid actor. So the halftime draw always seems to be won by a paid actor because no one's ever seen anybody win it. And then it came out yesterday that the same person had won it twice within a month. So John McCallum from Alexandria, the guy's name was, he'd won it twice in a month. And there was a great tweet that came up earlier on that says, "Not sure where Robbie Nielsen pulls this from. Looking at it statistically, John McCallum's had more wins at Celtic Park than Hearts since 2000. So
fair play to him. That's good wins.
It's set up that way. John McCallum walks away with 20 grand. Hearts walk away for Celtic Park with nothing. On the balance of it yesterday, as you said, you thought Celtic deserved to win. Was Nielsen a bit harsh with his comments after the game?
I think he was. Obviously, I did mention before that I thought Kyogo Furuhashi's goal was offside. But, Nielsen was clearly wrong when he says that Hearts should have had a penalty. I think we could all see that his player tripped. And yeah, I think, like as you said, it was a bit sour grapes. If you're a Hearts fan, it's probably what you want to see, or maybe you're a bit embarrassed because he was wrong last night. But yeah, I think it's a bit embarrassing, to be fair. I don't think he should be coming out and saying that after a game. I think he should take the result on the chin and move on like most managers do, because I don't think Hearts deserved anything last night, especially in the first half. They created very little. So
Something you picked up on when we were speaking about the game earlier was the sort of 15-minute spell towards the end of the game. And it was evident that after Celtic made the subs, Hearts really came out and had a go and tried to get at least something out of the game. Someone I was kind of impressed with yesterday was Barry Mackay. I thought he tried to get himself into the game as much as possible down that left-hand side. Between him and Stephen Kingsley, they were linking up really well and the crosses were coming over. But the question that I'm putting out there is, the game started yesterday with Josh Ginnelly up front. Would Hearts have got something more out of that game if they'd started Liam Boyce?
I'm not sure they would have got more out of the game, to be fair. I think what Robbie Nelson was probably going for was trying to use Ginnelly's pace. Didn't quite come off for him, and he brought Boyce on quite early into the second half. But again, they didn't create overly much with Boyce on the park. I can't really remember him having a clear-cut chance. But maybe if a chance falls to either Boyce or Ginnelly, I'd rather have Boyce on the end of it. So maybe if he got the chance last night, he would have buried it. But unfortunately for Hearts, didn't.
Feed the Bear just coming in to wish everybody a very good evening. A very good evening to you, Feed. I'm sure someone will come in and let us know when Coronation Street's coming on, because that is the Friday tradition. Who wants to be a Tyrone in the chat? Look, they're going to Livingston this weekend, and obviously it's been well known about Livingston having the plastic pitch. Liam Boyce having the sort of injury concerns that he's had throughout his career, having played on plastic pitches. He's been out missing this season through a knee injury. Is it worth taking the risk of playing him on Sunday, or do you think that Nielsen will stick with Ginnelly up front?
I think he'll stick with Ginnelly for this one. Again, we might see Boyce featuring quite early into the second half, but I think Robbie Nelson, no offence to Livingston, I think Robbie Nelson will be confident with starting Ginnelly that they can go and get the 3 points. Livingston on a great run, and Ginnelly's a good player. He's got bags of pace, so I think that's who we'll see up front.
Obviously, we're missing Benny Beningame in that midfield, and I think we saw that last night. Andy Halliday missing as well, so they haven't really got the dig in the midfield. Cammy Devlin done fairly well, but at times you could see the midfield was getting overrun.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one for Hearts, because you look at it, again, big odds for Hearts at the weekend. The evens, certainly one I would be looking to, but they have got to try and find a way to turn the possession football that they've got into putting the ball in the back of the net. It's a bit like Aberdeen. I mean, I think where Hearts have been different this season is they've been able to score goals from different parts of the field. I think Aberdeen have relied quite a lot on Ryan Hedges and Christian Ramirez. Ben Woodburn being the kind of good example there for Hearts, or someone who can chip in with a couple of goals here and there. Stephen Kingsley scoring the 3 kicks as well. So there's goals coming from all around the park. When you look at Livingston, that's no wins in 5 now for David Martindale's team. They're 2 points off the bottom of the table. By the time this game kicks off on Sunday at 3 o'clock, they could be the side at the bottom of the cinch Premiership. And they've only got 1 win at home this season. That was the basis of Livingston's top 6 run last year, was the fact that they were a hard team to beat at home. Putting that all into context, and you're looking at Hearts, it evens. I think it's our banker of the week.
Yeah, I think evens is a steal, to be honest. Maybe it's a case of, opposition teams coming to the Tony Macaroni Arena and being more used to the artificial pitch than they were last season. I don't know, that might be the case. It might be a factor. But yeah, Livingston really need to try and turn the corner. I think they're in deep trouble. And if I'm honest, my tip for relegation, I'll say that now. They've got Joel Newbley on loan at Arbroath. I think they have to recall him in January because he's been exceptional for Arbroath. He's a classy player, and I think he could easily play in the Scottish Premiership.
The hoodoo of going to the Spaghetti ad seems to be kind of wearing away from most teams apart from Celtic, who still haven't found a way to win there. But one win at home all season, that must be concerning. That win is against Celtic. That is the only team that managed to stop winning at the Spaghetti ad. And if you're David Martindale, you're looking at it and you're going, what is different to the teams that we've put out over the last couple of seasons? Because there's been Scottish football, then there's been Livingston football, and Livingston football seemed to combat every sort of different team. It didn't matter if you were on a run of 8 games in a row with a win. You went to Livingston and you always got a tough game. Just doesn't seem to be the case this season.
I think they're arguably a less physical side this season than they were last season. Livingston last season, as you said, their home form was pivotal in them securing that top 6 place. And, this season maybe, as I said, teams are a bit more used to coming and playing on the tighter pitch, the AstroTurf pitch, and maybe Livingston are struggling. They go away, they play away from home and they play on bigger pitches, and maybe that's what that crop of players at Livingston right now are more used to from previous clubs that they've played for.
Do you think he can turn it around?
No. I honestly, bluntly, no, I don't think so. I think Livingston will get relegated. Sorry to any Livingston fans watching, but I can't see them picking up a result this weekend.
Sorry to talk Livingston boys who I know do tune in, but that's Jake's prediction that you guys are going down this year. Look, I'll be blunt in the predictions here. I don't see it going any other way apart from Hearts picking up the 3 points. I think they're going to do it with a bit to spare. 3 points, 3-0 to Hearts.
3-0. Obviously, I've got Livingston to score, but I've got Hearts to win. I've got 2-1.
I mean, one of the kind of star players for Hearts this season has been Craig Gordon, and he pulled off some fantastic saves against Celtic last night as well. I just look at it and I go, does Livingston get anything that can get it past Craig Gordon? But then Craig Gordon is known to have a howler every now and again, so we never know. Maybe on the plastic pitch.
Yeah, we almost seen, well, it wasn't so much a howler, but he kind of bammed the ball away the other day and then made the recovery, and James Forrest tipped onto the post. So
I try to forget that one. Cheers, Jake. Look, we went through 5 of the games so far. Feed the Bear coming in to say, looking forward to the Axom weekend fundraiser. Should be good. Is the jumper back? I'm not sure who you're referring to there, Feed, but it is the Axom weekender. We are raising funds for St Mary's Parish and Carlton, obviously the birthplace of Celtic Football Club. The funds are already sitting at nearly £14,000 that's been raised. So tune in as I think it's 18 different Celtic podcasts will be live on the channel over the weekend, as well as matchday coverage of Dundee United versus Celtic. So do tune in. I think the State of Scottish Football also has a show this weekend, so tune into that as well, and support the fantastic cause that is St Mary's Chapel. One game left to go. St Johnston versus Ross County. Now, for me, I said this to you when we were talking about this, this is either going to be the game of the weekend or the most boring game of the weekend. It's 2 teams that are draw specialists and 2 teams that don't know where the back of the net is very often. St Johnston 1-1-7. They've scored 9 goals, 15 against. Yes, they've had injuries to guys like Stevie May, Glenn Middleton. They sold Ali McCann and Jason Kerr. But they were double cup winners last season. Where is it all going wrong for the Perth Sainties?
They can't score goals, bluntly. Stevie May, obviously, he's not been fit throughout the whole season, and they've got, I can't remember the other guy's name, Kane up front, yes. And they've not been scoring goals, and they could end up looking over their shoulder as well towards Livingston again. Sorry, the Livy podcast, but. Yeah, it's good. I don't know if this is going to be a bore fest, as you said, but I fancy Ross County. I don't think St Johnstone are going to pick up any points this weekend again.
Well, the bookies have kind of split on this one. St Johnstone are 5-4 at home, 9-4 for the draw, and 12-5 for Ross County. So, I mean, money to be made all round there. Again, as always, gamble responsibly, please. Looking at Ross County. So they've got the chance to leapfrog both Livingston and St Johnstone with a win in this game. They've got 8 points out of the last 15. Considering they'd waited so long for that first win in the league, it does seem as though Malky Mackay's managed to turn this around, and I wonder how much of that comes down to the fact that in the summer, I think he brought in, was it 13 players? And I think they're now only just settling into the squad, and you've got the experience of GVB at the back, and he's playing alongside someone who's really caught my eye this year in Jack Baldwin, and when he seems to play well, Ross County play well.
Yeah, and that's I think you were saying earlier, there's clean sheet in our last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
So certainly the foundations that Malky Mackay set out to have, and Baldwin's at the heart of that. From what I have seen of him this season and highlights and stuff, he's been impressive, especially over the last few weeks. So Malky Mackay will be hoping that he can keep that form up, and they can keep the clean sheets coming, because it'll be really important for them, because I don't think they have that firepower up front. I don't think they're going to score a lot of goals, so it's really important that they keep tight at the back.
I think that is one of their big downfalls this year, and I think that will be one of the reasons why they won't get as many wins. They'll probably pick up a lot of draws, is the fact that they've not got that natural goal scorer. I'm looking at what do you call him? Moved to Sunderland earlier in the season. Ross Stewart. The goals that he was scoring for Ross County over the last couple of seasons were pivotal, and then he comes away and they've not really replaced him. And I know Malky Mackay, as I said, has brought in 13, 14 different players, but the goals, even when they have been coming now, they've been coming from midfield, they've been coming from the guys like Blair Splittle. If they manage to sign a decent goal scorer in January, I think they're safe. I'm leaning more towards what you think in terms of Livingston, but I also think St Johnstone could be in there as well, because that run of form, scoring 9 goals in 17 games is really, really poor.
Yeah, it is, and it's quite unbelievable, especially given the season they had last season. I know they didn't have a great league campaign, but the two cup wins, obviously. But yeah, they've just not been at the races. They've not been able to score goals, and they could easily get dragged into the playoffs if not battling the Livingston, who I think will finish bottom. But St Johnstone are really Callum Davidson will be really worried about St Johnstone.
Should Callum Davidson be worried about his job, do you think? Or do you think the fact that he won the double last year, that'll kind of buy him a bit more time?
I asked this question to a St Johnstone fan at my work. I said, if you get relegated, does Callum Davidson get sacked? And he says he doesn't think so because of last season. But personally, I don't think that the cup double can keep him in a job if St Johnstone get relegated. Although they might look at it and think he could bring us back up. He's had previous success. So I'm a bit torn on that one, to be fair. But if I'm a St Johnstone fan, I don't think I'd be too upset if they were to get relegated and he was to get sacked.
You look at it and you go, there was some money brought in for Jason Kerr, there was some money brought in for Ali McCann. There must be transfer funds available to him in January to try and turn this around. But if he doesn't, I mean, he goes from someone who was touted for Manager of the Year last year to potentially a Championship manager in the space of 12 months.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of feel sorry for Callum Davidson, is those 2 players were sold really late on in the transfer window. He probably didn't have enough time to replace them, and they were probably the 2 best players he had last season. So that's been a big impact on St Johnstone's campaign. But ultimately, it's the results that fall at his feet, and if he doesn't go out and replace those players in January and start picking up results, then I'm sure his coat will be on a sugary peg.
As I said, this is either going to be the game of the weekend or the Borefest of the weekend. I'm going with the latter. I'm seeing this one going the way of the Dingwall side, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm going for a 1-0 Ross County win.
Yeah, as I said before, I think Ross County will win. St Johnstone, as we've said a million times already, just can't seem to score. Ross County aren't big scorers themselves, but I'm going to say 2-0.
2-0 to Ross County. Well, that concludes the 6 games predicted by the 2 of us for the weekend. Both of us have gone for a Celtic win, a Rangers win. You've gone for a Saint Marin victory over Aberdeen, although I kind of coaxed you out that because I've went for the draw. I went for a draw between Hibs and Motherwell. You've backed Motherwell to win that. We both see Hearts and Ross County picking up the points. Well, you can find out how we do over the weekend. Make sure if you are going along to the game to stay safe and follow the rules. If you aren't, then we will catch you at some point over the weekend. I think the State of Scottish Football show will be live on Sunday. So tune in to that one as part of the AXOM Charity Weekender. And join the guys on Monday as they review all of the action from the Cinch Premiership. Until then, team, stay safe, and we will see you all next time.